U.S. Africa Command, or AFRICOM, was given its imperial baptism in March of 2011 when it led the NATO bombing of Libya. Foreign Affairs wrote that there is reason to worry that AFRICOM was too green, its mandate too soft for it to perform up to U.S. standards. Yet in launching the U.S. intervention in Libya, AFRICOM acquitted itself well. Coming from an establishment, first of all, coming from an establishment publication like Foreign Affairs, I think that's a revealing look at how kind of brutal and militant elite opinion is. There's reason to believe it was too soft. But with its plans to station troops in 35 African countries, what role will AFRICOM play in the coming years? What goals underlie Washington's newest military unit?
Well, to understand U.S. foreign policy, you must first accept a basic premise. The United States wants to dominate the world, and I mean the whole world. And Africa is part of that world. So Africa was like the last missing piece. So they've had a military. Well, the Pentagon is divided into about 6 geographic sections, and one for Europe, and one for Africa, and one for Latin America, and so on. And Africa was the least active of those sections. In fact, we didn't even have an office there, because no one in Africa wanted to give the U.S. space to have for their headquarters in Africa, which is a telling piece of information. So the U.S. has been, for years, has been very anxious to get a foot in the door in Africa. And Libya, the recent events in Libya may serve that purpose, or the events in Syria. The U.S. has been looking to get their foot in the door in Africa for a long time.
Right. So continuing on that, can you describe what's happening in Mali? Is France merely assisting Washington in its global war on terror, or are there other interests at stake, perhaps related to the many minerals and energy resources of West Africa?
Yeah, I'm not any kind of expert on Mali, but the minerals are apparently very important, including uranium, which is not to be sneezed at. That's something every big power wants to get their hands on. The recent kidnapping of those workers in Algeria, our media puts it down just to the typical act of terrorism, kidnapping white foreigners, you know. But it's plain to me that they were reacting to France just invading Mali and bombing. No one questions that. I mean, no one questions that France or the U.S. or the UK has the right to go around the world overthrowing and bombing and killing whenever they want. And these people in Algeria were very upset about that. And they don't have planes and bombs, so they have to use what they can, and that's kidnapping the closest white European imperialists or U.S. imperialists. So at this point, is hardly even hinted at in the main media here.
Right. And can you describe what's been happening in Syria, the background context, the role of the United States, what interests are at stake, and where you see it going?
Syria is important to the U.S. for reasons having to do with Israel and with Iran. Those are the two main interests the U.S. has there. And so they've been trying to, they're seeking to overthrow the government, obviously, and replace it with someone more favorable. They didn't learn a thing from what happened in Libya. They overthrew the government there for similar reasons, and it was replaced, well, with a civil war. The terrorists, the Al-Qaeda aligned terrorists of Libya have been fighting for their share of the pie ever since. And it may be the very same thing in Syria. Syria is full of Al-Qaeda type terrorists who have come there from all over the Middle East to join the latest jihad. And in fact, it's claimed very often now that the activists in Mali are able to do what they've been doing because of the manpower and the arms they've gotten from Libya. The Libyan adventure has led to the Malian adventure, and the Syrian adventure will lead to other things. The U.S. is just playing with fire all over the world, and they don't care what horror they leave behind, as long as they can overthrow the government they want, and they keep succeeding, you know, like in Libya, and they'll succeed in Syria. They will not stop until they have destroyed the whole country. And I mean, physically, it's a mess now. It was a very nice place before, but it's just totally, it's a rubble now. And the U.S. will keep at it along with France and the UK until they have a change of regime.
Eduardo Galeano wrote in his book Open Veins of Latin America that the IMF was created to institutionalize Wall Street's financial dominion over the whole planet when the dollar first achieved hegemony as international currency after World War II. It has never been untrue to its master. What role do the IMF, the World Bank, and other such institutions play in global imperialism?
They are not opposed to the American imperialism, that's for sure. But they don't handle the military end of it, they handle the financial end of it. And they at times will sound and act independent, but the IMF and the World Bank are staffed with high-ranking Americans. The World Bank is always led by an American. I'm not going to go into the financial details. That's very complicated, but the IMF and the World Bank and the WTO, the World Trade Organization, they do their best to appear to be independent, but you have to watch them carefully. They're not really independent, and they know which side their bread is buttered on, and they know where their offices are located in downtown Washington. So you have to watch them carefully.